talk to Professor James Fetzer this hour. Jim has been with us throughout this whole finale, so to speak, of this election cycle, as they say. And it is getting to the point now where it is so over the top, unbelievable, that the American people, those who can still think and see and observe and synthesize and process data, have now seen that what I've been saying for many years, and so have others, that the mainstream media, and we've talked about it, owned by 5 or 6 corporations, I forget which now, I think it's 5 now, in the aggregate of 95% or more of the media outlets in this country are controlled, that the mainstream media is one of our biggest enemies. It is a main tentacle of the beast that is destroying our history, our heritage, our culture, our way of life, and our Constitution. The mainstream media should never be trusted again under any circumstances. None of it. There are a few exceptions. Sean Hannity has come forward. I guess Rush Limbaugh has been doing some good things too. But there are just 2 examples, and there should be hundreds, and there aren't. These people are worse than whores. They are the enemy. They are, in fact, the mechanism by which we will be taken down. The media. People look to the media. It's a reflex, and they do it. We have some stories we're going to bring you this hour as Jim and I get this thing synthesized and brought up to date. How are you, Jim?
Good, Jeff. Very good. And, of course, it turns out that the media get most of their stories from the Associated Press and from Reuters, and that Reuters owns the Associated Press and in turn is owned by the Rothschilds.
It's all ultimately administered by the CIA. Sure, you go to the top of the pyramid, and the eyeball above there is the Rothschilds. They're running it all. It's all
and
trickle
they
down.
only promised Hillary that they would make her Queen of America, and they're doing everything they can to bring that about.
Yeah. The people do have the power to reject that. If the vote is that big, they will have to retreat and try something else. And something else is probably not too positive. There can be some very negative things that can happen very quickly. They already tried to kill Donald Trump once, as we know, in the Trump Tower, and that's the one we know about. All right, let me start with this so-called Department of Justice today, warning Americans that any efforts to stop the 2016 vote fraud, and it is going to happen, it's a foregone conclusion, could violate federal law. In other words, you could be a federal felon if you do something to try to expose or otherwise stop voter fraud. How crazy can it get?
It's beyond ridiculous. I mean, we're into the realm of obscenity, Jeff. Now, do they give any illustrations of what kinds of actions to stop the theft of an election that could bring about punishment by the federal government?
Yeah, let me get this. I'll have to pull this story back up again. I'm going to do that in just a second here, as soon as I can get it. All right, here we go. Now, DOJ warns efforts to stop 2016 voter fraud could violate federal law. Now get this. A U.S. Department of Justice press release warns individuals, how about patriots? It warns individuals who may serve as poll watchers hoping to prevent vote fraud could violate, are you ready? Intimidation laws. Federal intimidation laws.
And, of course, they're issuing that to intimidate voters from conducting any kind of exit
Black
polling
is white,
themselves.
up is down. Yeah.
Yep.
Upon first blush, what may appear to be a middling warning that vote fraud and abuse will not be tolerated by federal law enforcement, it also casts a shadow over various lawful election activities with broad language apparently intended to caution, threaten individuals from performing their duties.
Yeah, the issuance of this statement itself is an attempt to intimidate the voters.
Of course it is.
Exercising their lawful rights. I mean, it's further indication of the corruption of this administration. Jeff, it is so nauseating. I have never seen anything like the lawlessness of this Clinton administration.
The sad part of it is it's been this way for years. But now it has been dragged out, or it presented itself as it mocks us, it doesn't care. It just walked out into the broad daylight and said, here I am. I'm evil. I run this country the way I want to, and that's it. A statement initially circulated by various U.S. attorneys' offices outlines several forms of election crimes to include buying and selling votes, impersonating voters, and others, yet offers a blanket warning to individuals who may hope to disrupt and document similar plots to those as being violating federal voting rights laws. This is so unbelievable.
It is. It's absolutely incredible. I mean,
the DOJ. Here's more. The DOJ comment specifically counsels against communicating with voters and, quote, challenging them, end quote. Plus, the capture of still and video images is also mentioned. If you have a smartphone and you take a snapshot or some video of a polling place, you could be guilty of a federal felony. That's what they're saying.
You know, Jeff, I'm coming around to believe that this idea that Trump voters should wear a red shirt, a red sweater, and all that, to make it visibly obvious the massive percentage that are favoring Trump would be a form of an antidote to this absurdity. They're trying to discourage exit polling because that's the most reliable method for exposing election theft, right there.
You know another reliable method? 30,000 people at a campaign rally compared to 300.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. We have so many indications that Trump is way out in the lead. It's ridiculous, completely ridiculous. Mike Pence was just now on Hannity. He was talking about going to these rallies, and the enthusiasm is just palpable. He's never seen anything like it. He's been in politics for 30 years.
Yeah.
And what he's saying is absolutely 100% correct. And that's why the Benenson people are so petrified, that the Trump supporters are so tenacious that they're trying to figure out some way to scare him off. And they did a survey, what would cause you to not vote? And it turned out an invasion by extraterrestrials was the most prevalent answer. So they're going to arrange.
Well, that was their so-called salvage operation.
That's right. They're
salvage the election, or salvage the fix.
Jeff, there are Benenson executives have had the opportunity to deny that this is real, and they have not done it. I believe it actually is authentic.
I looked at that, and I'm not sure because the Benenson company is real. They are tied into the Clinton Foundation. They've got 6 or 7 different offices. What we're talking about, I ran about a week ago now. And it assessed the situation. It was like an inside secret assessment that Hillary was way behind and falling further behind, and that something was going to have to be done. A scenario would have to be employed to scare the electorate. And there were a number of different scenarios, 5 or 6 of them. And the last one was called Firesign. Operation Firesign.
That's right.
And
Firesign.
What that involved was, for those of you who remember the old Project Bluebeam from the 80s, which was a program that the CIA or other government agencies involved in intelligence seeking to change the mood or threaten or scare hundreds of millions of people would use. And that was to use lasers to holographically put in the sky, in the clouds, picture of Jesus over Christian countries, Muhammad over the Middle Eastern countries or whatever other areas are full of Islamics, and Hindus and so forth. They were going to use the sky as a venue to paint images holographically, and ultimately to use it to put UFO massive spaceships up there and scare people.
Right.
Now that's the same thing we're talking about with Firesign. They were supposedly going to come up with some kind of an invasion from E.T. that would scare the hell out of people. Well, if I saw massive spaceships up there, I'd laugh, because they wouldn't. All they would be pictures. They couldn't do anything. And the internet now, thank God, would help people understand that it's a scam.
just to confirm what you're saying, the Firesign scenario is that of an invading extraterrestrial force of nearly incomprehensible scale. Massive floating cities descending, God-sized walkers among the clouds with terrifying weapons, wheels of fire and eyes, etc. This phenomenon, when activated, will bring electoral and social systems to a halt, and in affected areas will permit a narrative when the President of the United States is able to call a halt to the invasion and then hand over the torch to Hillary, providing a basic continuity of state. But I tell you, Jeff, I think this is, however ludicrous, that they were serious about this. I mean, they go through 5 others. The reporting that are unfavorables are down to 12%, that she's losing 19 to 77 for Trump. Go through that a little slower so people can follow along. The premise is that Hillary's losing 77 to 19. Right, 19 to 77. That's exactly right. And that among independents, Hillary voters were exposed to any alternative media. 73% are aware of the WikiLeaks emails, find them either disturbing, 54%, or deeply disturbing, 18%. Among liberal identifying white support is shifting from Hillary, minus 27 since October, to Donald Trump, 78%, or Jill Stein, 21%. For voters who solely consume mainstream media, only 28% are aware of the WikiLeaks, and of those, only 8% are aware of the content. For these voters, Clinton leads Trump by +8. I mean, it goes on really saying that the alternative media has destroyed their efficacy in using stories, including about Trump groping, to smear him.
Right.
And as I believe we discussed our last round, the WikiLeaks revealed a May memorandum that they were talking about just an avalanche of women who report the unwelcome advances, kissing on the lips and groping in May, Jeff, and it's coming about. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, totally.
It's just ridiculous. But these other stories they were contemplating are bizarre, too. They're talking about Red Dawn, a Red Dawn scenario using UN forces and Canadian border infiltration.
Right.
This is, the Russians are coming, Cobalt Rain, radiological attack, Black Lives riots, a Zika epidemic, a Sharia escalation, unnatural disaster. I mean, it's astounding. What they're doing is a perfectly logical sequence if you're trying to figure out something on a humongous scale that might affect the outcome. And they give all the negatives, and they find the most promising is this Firesign thing. I mean, it's bizarre.
Yeah,
I tell you, Jeff, it appears to be real.
I don't know. I watched for years Project Bluebeam, and that people were convinced that was real too. I think that probably was a real issue. This one, it got loose, and as you said, they've made no effort to deny it. They're just not. They're not really getting involved.
Well, they've used some of this stuff in the Middle East. a big image of all.
They used it in the Iraq War, the Iraq slaughter.
Right. That's exactly right. That's right. And one of the revelations now is that CBS has obtained a copy of a Hillary lecture as the Secretary of State to the members of the State Department on their special duty to maintain cybersecurity.
Wow.
She so lies about this, Jeff, that the classification status of a document has nothing to do with whether it's been formally classified or not. Hillary knows that because she was among the few delegated with the authority to classify. So she was on television saying, I never transmitted documents that said top secret or classified.
The woman is a psychopathic liar. She has no problem lying whatsoever. She's not in any way constrained by conscience, morality, rules, regulations, nothing.
We also have WikiLeaks emails from Hillary saying she believes in-depth vetting of refugees arriving in the United States is all but impossible.
Of course.
And, of course, Obama's director of national intelligence, James Classer, has also stated, as have other major figures, and that in Jordan, where they allow a lot of these refugees, the incidence of terrorism has been steadily growing because of the influx of immigrants. I mean, that she would welcome that into the United States. It's all particularly ridiculous. I mean, good God. And of course, we have all the reports about her approving. Oh, yeah, this is a good one, Jeff. Hillary, during the third debate, said 90% of the Clinton Foundation donations go to charity, but the actual number turns out to be 5.7%.
That's it.
That's
And
it.
remember, in Haiti, $7.3 billion was taken in and administered by the Clinton Foundation. So apply your 5.7%. 5.7%. Subtract 5.7% from 7.3 billion, and the rest of it's missing. The Clintons are billionaires, okay? They're not millionaires, they're billionaires.
5.7. We're talking about a nickel on a dollar.
That's right.
Yeah, I love this thing, though, about Uranium One, where Hillary got all this money from this, to sell off 20% of U.S. uranium assets to Russia. Now that ties together national security, Clinton Foundation corruption, and her role as Secretary of State pay to play. That makes a perfect commercial, Jeff. That one could decide the election all by itself. Except I think that Donald actually is in the lead. The question is whether we're going to get an honest count, and I think there's not much doubt that we are.
Well, if he wins, if he leads 75-25, it's going to be pretty difficult for them to hide that many votes.
I like that. Yeah, Pence was also talking about different places they were going and how there were Trump signs all over the place. He never even saw a single Hillary sign.
I believe
not even
that.
one.
Yeah. And they weren't taken down by Trump people. That's the Hillary game.
And yet we have George Soros owning electronic voting machines in 16 states. Actually, that includes the District of Columbia. Arizona, California, Colorado, District of Columbia, Florida, Illinois, Louisiana, Michigan, Missouri, New Jersey, Nevada, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Washington, Wisconsin. Jeff, that's a hell of a lot of corruption of the election right there. Because it's so easy to hack these machines. I mean, there's absolutely nothing to it. It can be done electronically. You don't have to be there. It doesn't require physical access to the machine.
Just going back to this Benenson Strategy Group. And WikiLeaks emails are now looking at Benenson. They've got Benenson in their sites. Oh, also, Anonymous has served notice that they're coming after the mainstream media. WikiLeaks has now released email, I've got it up there, of the reporters. These are big-time mainstream MSM reporters who are taking orders from the Clinton campaign. Okay? All right, now here's this Benenson thing. They're admitting, if this is not a satire document, if it's real, I can't tell you if it is or it isn't. You have to make your own decision on that. But what they're saying is Hillary, again, is losing so badly that they have to salvage the victory somehow, salvage the campaign, salvage the election. And here's their list of non-recommended salvage options. Non-recommended. This is what the alleged report from Benenson said. We don't recommend these. One, as Jim said, is Red Dawn. And the Benenson notes say, support is too widespread. While an RD scenario, Red Dawn, using UN forces and Canadian border infiltrators would be effective in shutting down northern voting, it would simply delay the inevitable and result in hardened support for Mr. Trump. So they said no to Red Dawn. Cobalt Rain. The public has been primed for radiological attack, and stockpiles have been positioned, but while the psychological impact of a Cobalt-60 weapon is severe, the threshold of opportunity may have passed for this to stop a vote. It's too late. They can't use it now. So they discounted that one. A BL riot. These are black riots. Yeah, BLM riot. Again, while staged civil unrest would prevent pockets of Americans from voting, the damage is too widespread. Zika-pocalypse. Zika-pocalypse.
Yeah, they're talking about a Zika epidemic.
Improved, strains of Zika virus have been delivered, and we have disseminated them to operatives.
Think about that, Jeff, right there. Just think about that sentence right there.
Oh, I got it. We have disseminated them to operatives. Now, are we to assume that whoever concocted this current Zika epidemic has come up with a ZIKV that is terribly fatal and obviously human-to-human vectored, not from mosquitoes? It is already human-to-human vectored through sexual contact.
But look what they say next, Jeff. Look what they say next.
Let me read it again. Improved strains of Zika virus have been delivered, and we have disseminated them to operatives. Unfortunately, this will suppress women voters more than men.
Isn't that great?
This would hurt Hillary Clinton, and Trump voters are willing to risk lethal pathogens to vote.
That's right. They're so dedicated. They'll do it anyway.
Now, here's the next one that they say is non-recommended. Sharia escalation. States have blocked key immigrant operatives. States have blocked key immigrant Muslim operatives. Without the required Muslim Islamist population in place, the IE plan will not be sufficiently impactful. Okay, so they've given up on the Sharia escalation, fear of Muslims to keep people from voting. Unnatural disaster. Now they've dropped this one too. HARP is in skeleton crew mode. That's true. Subterranean thermobaric devices on fracking mines are untested. Surveys suggest this might not stop Trump voters. I read this a little bit like a comic book, Jim, to me.
But Jeff, I think it's all accurate. Actually, you see.
Well, everything I just read is in fact accurate. The question is this just good disinformation, very clever, or is it real?
But Jeff, if it were phony and made up because it makes them look so bad, they should be yelling from the rooftops that they have nothing to do with it, that it's a complete fabrication.
People might say that, that's proof that they are involved with it. You know, it can cut both ways. I don't know. You got a good point.